Welcome, everybody, to the Mission Employable podcast, where we're talking about all things workforce here in Iowa. I'm Ben Oldak, joined by my co-host, Kathy Leggett. Kathy, how's it going?
Going great today, Ben.
That's right. We got a good show today. Today's
Yes.
show is all about the trades. We know how important that is, right, Kathy?
We do. Yep.
And we're talking about how a Des Moines-based union is training the next generation of plumbers, pipe fitters, and HVAC technicians. We're going to be exploring the career pathways available in the trades and how this industry offers training and professional development for Iowans. Joining us on the show is Andy Roberts, business manager at the Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 33 here in Des Moines. Welcome to the show, Andy. How's it going?
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Glad to be here with you today. So just kind of tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the trades in the first place.
Well, for me, family, right? Sometimes unions were somewhat on the nepotism side, to be honest with you. But I do come from a large family. There's 9 of us. I have 5 other brothers, all in the trade with me. I'm also a third generation, which makes them third generation. So my father and my grandfather were also members of Local 33. So that's how I become to know the ways of the union apprenticeships, and the Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 33 is just simply being raised within the family of union plumbers and steamfitters.
Well,
I was going to say,
Ben.
no, I think we both might have had the same idea, which is, what is a steam fitter?
So a steam fitter, right? There's a lot of classifications out there: pipe fitter, steam fitter, plumber. Pipe fitter, steam fitter can be relatively the same thing, but you have to understand, back in the days of steam locomotives, right? That was the main source of power, even for electric. You know, if you've seen the radiator heaters inside the school buildings or even your houses back in the day, that's how folks used to heat their houses, but also in the production of any of the industrial plants. Coal fires, powerhouses, all used steam power. So that's how you get the steam fitter.
yeah, interesting. We were talking about that because I was kind of like, I'm not exactly sure I know what that is, which I'm embarrassed to say, but now I do. And you know what? It's so interesting because that makes me think of when I grew up. We had radiators, and it was steam, and then it make bang. They bang a lot. That's what I grew up
So
with.
that's your condensate. You know, that's what's that banging is. That's your water that's hitting against that a little bit when the steam's trying to get through. But the steam fitting also it's really more for high pressure lines, right?
Gotcha.
When you're doing high pressure steam or any other piping material, this is stuff where it usually falls under the line of a steam fitter.
Wow.
Awesome. Well, and tell us a little bit about your role at Local 33.
So I'm the business manager for the Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 33, which entails me to wear a lot of hats, you guys. We are self-funded. We do have our own pension program, so I am a chairman of the Health and Welfare Fund. I'm also the chairman of our pension funds. As my role as a business manager, elected role, I was elected in 2010. I am currently on my 5th term as the business manager. And my role is the overseeing of all of our membership, our day-to-day activities, and anything that has to do with the plumbers and steamfitters is usually going through my office.
Okay. One thing interesting that you just talked about, you learned it was part of your family. That's how you grew up. You have a lot of siblings in this trade and stuff. So one of the things we want to do is that's how a lot of us learn what our trade is going to be, is from our family or relatives. Talk to us in a way for those who don't know what the union setup is like, you talked membership, you talked training, so tell us a little bit more about that so we can hopefully inform a lot more people who are like, I never knew this, never knew these opportunities existed.
So let me get this right. You want me to explain how we look for people, or
why should they consider looking towards
that's a great question, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of answers to that question too. One, being in the skilled trades and being in a trade, and for me a licensed trade, right? It gives me the opportunity to do a lot more aspects of the industry, being in the licensed side of it. Now, all the other trades are out there looking right now.
Yes.
It's not just the plumbers and steamfitters. Right. I know you guys all know that we have a gap of skilled workers out there, especially in the construction industry. But the best way of saying something, of trying to get people to entice into the trades is this: A, do you like working with your hands?
Okay.
B, you're going to need health insurance. C, do you want a dignified retirement that'll be here sooner than what you think it will be? And last but not least, the earn while you learn. There's an opportunity here for us to train you to learn the aspects of our trade next to somebody that's done the trade themselves for many numerous years. So that right there is in itself something that makes the trades approachable right now, and the amount of work that we're seeing here in the state of Iowa, not just here, but for the infrastructure all the way around the United States of America, the need for more people in the trades is now.
Yeah, it sounds certainly like it's not anything that's going to be going away anytime soon with the as like you just mentioned, the amount of infrastructure improvements that we're going to be needing. It seems like work will be abundant for years to come.
Yeah, and Iowa being, I feel we're a little bit of a hotbed. Talking to some of our sister locals from around the United States, for instance, San Francisco currently has a workers, they have a lot of people on their bench. When I say their bench, they're laid off at the time. A little over 300 members right now. Iowa, being right in the center of the United States of America, the grids, this is why you're seeing the Facebooks, the Microsofts, the Googles, all of them want to build right here. So it's so much easier to be able to facilitate what they need to send out all of their inner workings of their companies.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit more about how someone would get involved in the apprenticeship program and the kind of training that they can expect?
So our apprenticeship program, we are a 5-year training. All right, so you have to go to school for 5 years. During each year, you have 6 rotations. We are a day school, so you're coming to school for 6 weeks each year for your 5 years. And what that entails is you coming to our training center on a Tuesday. We do a 410, Tuesday through Friday for your training. And then you're working out in the field with our signatory contractors the rest of the time. Now, while you're in school, we do give our students, albeit that you're not going to be receiving a paycheck while you're in school, we do give them a $350 a week stipend while they're in school. We have jurisdictions for the Plumbers and Steamfitters Local 33 in Mason City, Sioux City, Fort Dodge, and Ottumwa. And we also offer those members that want to become into the trade, we put them up in a hotel while they're at school. We give them a gas allowance, and we give them a food allowance while they're also down here doing their training.
Great.
So it seems like a lot of that's focused on kind of breaking down some barriers to entry, right?
Very much so. Barriers that persist on any given day. May it be whoever's looking to get into apprenticeship, just finding a car, a reliable car, making sure you have a license. See, some of these things are pretty easy, but you have to have graduate a GED, you have to have a diploma or a GED also to become an apprenticeship. So a couple of them things right there are things that are just normal. But the other barriers that you talk about that we do break down, them are ones that are important too, so a person can afford to come to school and be trained.
Absolutely. So do people, is it just central Iowa? You mentioned a lot of other places in the state. So anyone's interested in the state could contact you, your location, or how would that work?
We have jurisdictions.
Okay.
So our sister local is 125. There's one in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Okay.
And then for the Council Bluffs area, Local 464 and Local 16 out of the Omaha area takes care of that jurisdiction. And then down at the Quad Cities, it's a Local 25 out of Illinois that takes care of that jurisdiction. Okay. So there is some, different areas around the state where any person that's interested in being in the trades can find something that may suit what they're looking for.
Speaking of which, how does somebody actually sign up for one of these things? Do they just show up to the union shop and say, hey, I'm interested? Or, there are different websites for different jurisdictions. How does that all work to get involved that way?
Yeah, so there is different websites for each jurisdiction, right? So we have our own. If you go to plumbersandsteamfitters.org, you can fill out an application right online. That's going to trigger you to go to our organizing department, which is going to get you a call. We're going to find out if you have any if you know the trade at all, if you have any background within the trade, all right, we're going to assess you to see if you're somebody that can either be direct entry into our apprenticeship program or somebody that just needs to go through the regular process of starting as a first-year apprentice.
Sure, makes a lot of sense.
And what would the regular process be? That's for somebody who's says, I want to work with my hands, I think this would be a good fit, but I haven't done anything like this before.
If you're coming right out of high school and you're like, hey, I don't want to go to college.
Right.
And I firmly believe that you need some kind of continuing education after high school if you want to make it in the middle class. Anybody coming right out of high school can go right to our website, fill out the application. More than likely, we're going to get you on as a pre-apprentice. We are going to vet you a little bit because I just want to remind everybody that this is paid by our membership. And we want to make sure that if we're going to invest into an individual that we're going to get our investment back out of them.
Yeah. And one thing that we talked about a little bit about in our kind of pre-production meeting when we were coming up with these questions was that the fact that one of the things that you guys are really looking for in addition to people that are good with their hands is someone that's good at math. And that math aspect of it is really important in being successful in this. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's critical. Math is such a critical aspect of our trade, mostly because you're measuring pipe and when you're putting pipe in, and when you're dealing with larger pipe, and for me, the largest pipe I got to deal with was 60-inch pipe. All right, so this is pipe I could actually walk through to put in. And when you're doing offsets and you're putting these pipes together to put them inside factories, when you're off 1 inch, you're off a mile. And it's just not going to work. And that's why it's so important that you understand how a tape measure works, that you understand fractions, that you understand how to minus and subtract them and put them together to make sure that when you have a finished product and you're going to install that product, that it's going to fit the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think just trying to share that. So maybe for our educators out there or job seekers or folks like that who are listening to understand that even though it may not seem relevant or needed, it is. You know, so hang in there with your math or your that type of thing because you want opportunities like you guys can offer. And, you know, we don't want people to have that be a barrier for them.
Correct.
Yeah,
So, you know, vocational classes is something that we've seen kind of go away here in the state of Iowa. And it's just really just a lack of budget, right? It's all about a money thing there. And so for us, and you see a lot of trades a little bit, we've gone backwards a little bit when a new apprentice is coming into it, just for the fact that they don't know how to read a tape. They don't. For me, I took a woods class, industrial arts, welding class when I was in high school, and I came out with at least some of the knowledge of what it took to be in the trade. So for us, it's playing a little bit of catch up for some of these kids that are coming right out of high school.
yeah.
Now I'm curious because you mentioned obviously that like the tape measure, you know, maybe reading a level or something like that. It's not as prevalent as it used to be. On the flip side, do they have a head start in some of the more like the computer side of things and the technology side of things?
Very much so, and that's a great question because that's some of the technology that's changed over the years. When you have CAD now and BIM, these are models out there where it's all computer based, and these apprentices these days have a much more technology when it comes to that than what I would have when I was in the trade. This was something for me during the technology that wasn't used that's very prevalent now.
Yeah.
So with some of those changes, I'm wondering or thinking that there's retraining or there's constant training maybe going on with your members or the folks in the trades because things are this new technical advancement or whatever. And so do you have a part in keeping them up to date on that?
Very much so.
Okay.
We offer continuing education at our union hall yearly, daily. There's always some kind of training going on down there. Right now, we're in the process of license renewal for the state of Iowa for our mechanical license and plumbing license renewal. And we are all required to have 16 hours of continuing education to update our licensure. So all of our members are currently hitting the books right now, so they're able to renew their license.
Yeah. Now, switching gears a little bit, I kind of wanted to talk about workforce population in the trade. And what I mean by that is that nationally, women make up about 4% of the trade workforce. So can you tell us about the shift towards getting more women into the workforce, more underrepresented populations into the workforce in the trades, and if that's an important issue for you guys to tackle?
Very important, right? DEI right now, not just the state of Iowa, but everywhere across the United States of America. You know, we're on the front hold of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unions do a great job, and currently, the numbers here in Iowa: 75% of women in the trades are in the union and registered apprenticeship programs.
Wow.
So we're doing a fine job right now of getting women to join our ranks, which in turn, what's that give for women, right? All the same benefits that any man had with Local 33. There is no wage gap, and there's no possibility of not being able to do the job because you're a woman. The technology of today has made it more accessible to have women in the trades.
That's so exciting.
I think that wage gap thing that you mentioned is a really attractive point for people who are getting into the workforce, especially in the trades, because there is a wage gap in this country, and it's something that we need to talk about and address. And it sounds like by being in a union, that's one thing already off the checklist.
And that's always been that way, Ben. That's the thing about being in a union, right? There's never been any disparity between wages. A first-year apprentice makes the same as any first-year apprentice within our organization, all the way up to a journey person that's in our organization. They get the same pay raises, they have the same health care, same pensions.
How do you go about trying to get some of these people interested in the trades that maybe haven't thought about it before, or or don't have that family kind of pathway into it? How do you reach out to them?
So, we have a high school weld off. We sponsor the Plumbers and Steamfitters. We had over 200 high school kids from all across the state of Iowa come in for a welding competition. Out of them, 246 of them were women. And we brought them down to our training center for a simple weld test on pipe. And I want to emphasize on pipe. That's the difference between us, probably a little bit on advanced manufacturing, is the welding of pipe. And that's one way of drawing them in, right? This Wednesday is Build My Future. We're going to have over 5,000 students down here at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. Of course, the Plumbers and Steamfitters, we're going to have our weld trailer. It's a regular size welding trailer, certified weld trailer, where these kids can come in and do a little try out some welding to see if it's something that they're interested in. Also get an ice cream cone while they're there.
Well, there you go.
There's the incentive,
Yeah.
right?
But as for that, we're doing the MC3 program. So what the MC3 programs, it's a multi-core curriculum. So we've started it in Southeast Polk High School, getting ready to kick it off, and at Central Campus. Both of these are curriculums that's going to give you a certificate out of the National Building Trades to help you show that you've had some experience or have had some training when it comes to the building trades.
That is such a great opportunity, I think, for youth, young adults, to get a credential, get their hands on in something that they may find for their career. And so I think that's very exciting. That's one of the things I was going to ask you is what high schools are you working with? Just because work-based learning is really growing, and if a high school is interested in connecting with you, can they do that?
Yes, and that's a great question. As I told you, Southeast Polk has confirmed, and so has Central Campus. They will begin the MC3 program starting here real shortly. And I just want to reiterate on that. That's just not for the plumbers and steam fitters. It's for all the crafts that are out there. So if you're interested in being a carpenter, electrician, a sprinkler fitter, iron worker, laborer, all down the line, this gives you an opportunity to get you a little bit of the hands-on of each one of these to see this is what I want.
How will that work? Can you, like in the high school, how does that work?
So the high school is going to be putting on the classes, but they're going to be touring our training centers. So each one of these classes will be spending some time at each one of our training centers to see if this is what their niche is.
So cool. I want to let people know that Andy is a long sought after podcast guest. So we're happy and so happy that he's here today, that he's finally been able to make the visit and talk about the program. And also, Andy was one of the first people I met when I started Future Ready Iowa job about a little over 5 years ago. I was given a list, here's some key people, and Andy was on it. And I went down to the training center and have always remembered it because you have a great training center here.
Oh, thank you. And we've expanded our training center too, Kathy. So we bought the building that was next door to it and put in about $4 million private dollars. I want to emphasize private dollars to refurb this building, and it's our plumbing and our HVAC lab. So we've expanded. When I became business manager at Local 33, we had 88 apprentices. We are now up over to 400 apprentices. So if that tells you where we're at and how much we've grown here since 2010, and we're not done yet.
No, that is so great.
With all the money that's coming for the infrastructure, and I say this, a lot of people will talk about roads and bridges need to repair, but for me as the plumber, I'm also telling you that stuff that's underneath the roads and bridges also needs to be repaired.
Right, yeah. The things that we don't even think about. And that's, I guess, I think there are so many opportunities that people don't even know about that your training offers to them.
You know, that's the thing. Sometimes people think the plumbers and steam fitters, I go around and clean toilets. But that's farthest from the truth, right? Our trade, when I talk about powerhouses, when I talk about the high V's and keeping their food frozen and cold, when I talk about any of the buildings downtown for heating and cooling, all of these things are everything that falls under the work of the plumbers and steam fitters. The list goes on, from hospitals, med gas installation, backflow prevention. there's just a plethora of work that can fill our members.
Yep, it is, and that's why I just want to encourage people to check out, your website, contact you, because I think just we don't even know all the opportunities that are there, and you certainly offer a lot of them.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, back to even Kathy when she said I was one of the first ones she met, and it was Future Ready.
Yes.
I bombed the interview, if you remember right, and maybe you don't remember this, but. Oh my gosh! They were trying to get me to answer some questions, and for some reason, I had stage fright. I couldn't get it. I just couldn't seem to get the words out of my mouth of what I was trying to say when it come to our registered apprenticeship program. But,
Well, we're happy to give you a take two on that
Exactly.
and make
Yes.
sure that you get it out in front of everyone. So,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
Andy, thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate it.
thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah.